right, let's get smarter on the Jacket side of things. We've had a draft, we had a free agency frenzy, and we've got a camp that starts today and runs through Saturday. He's Aaron Portzline of The Athletic, great friend of the program. Buddy, thanks for the time. How close do you think what was accomplished was to what they wanted to accomplish this offseason?
Not even in the same Milky Way, not even in the same stratosphere, I don't think. I think the market caught him by surprise how few players became available with this new cap space. A lot of people were hanging on to their guys. And you know what, Beau, I think we didn't realize it quite so clearly at the time, but the attempt to get Noah Dobson, the offensive defenseman who went from the Islanders to Montreal, was really telling in a couple of ways. First, the picks were not enough. You wondered, these were so-so picks, 14 and 20, in a so-so draft, and how much did those move the needle? They're attractive, but you're not desperate to get them, and they did, in fact, have to sweeten them, and they didn't get it done because of the second part of this, which is Columbus is no longer a team that players fear going to. It's not seen as a place you want to avoid at all costs at all. It's seen as a pretty good spot now, but it is not an attraction, and it's not unless you have some sort of connection to it. So the kid that Noah Dobson that went to Montreal is from Prince Edward Island, Canada, pretty close to home, about as close to home as you can get. And the other guys that they would have taken a run at, Mitch Marner, if he would have looked their way, they would have thrown everything they had on the table. All he wanted to do was get to Vegas. Rasmus Anderson, the other right side defenseman that the Blue Jackets were connected to in Calgary, he's still with Calgary because he's not doing a sign and trade unless it's Vegas. Vegas is a place people want to be. Florida is a place people want to be. The Panthers, and Columbus is no longer a place you wish to avoid, but it is not a place that players are going out of their way to get to.
Yeah, that's the reality of it, and you got to own it, right? Boy, there's a bitterness, and I don't blame Jackets fans for having it. Obviously, Florida's been around a long time, but this lottery ticket that was cashed in Vegas, it's a painful thing to watch. I mean, they've already won the Cup, and now they're able to get Marner, and everybody wants to play there. I get it. The weather's great. No state tax. I certainly understand it, but my goodness, did they give them too many advantages, Porty? And the other thing, too, is I look at that, and that's a damn talented team. Mm-hmm. But it just seems like every summer they want the shiny toy. Yeah. I don't know what they're building exactly, but whatever it is, the biggest and the best, it's so Vegas. It is so Vegas. I have no idea what's going on in that town half the time. But if it's bright and it's loud and it's the shiny toy that everybody wants, they want it, and they'll figure everything else out after the fact. Yeah, it's wild. Use the word desperate in your first answer. 7 years, 59 and a half, 8.5. That's a steep price, obviously. What do you make of that deal for Provorov?
Well, look, I think Provorov and his agent, Mark Andler, played this thing to perfection. And maybe what the Blue Jackets and other teams did not understand about the market this year, they did. So they wanted a long-term deal with the Blue Jackets last March at the trade deadline. The Blue Jackets were not willing to go there. They held on to him because they were still in the playoff race. But, boy, when this market fizzled, when Dobson went to Montreal, when Anderson appeared parked in Calgary, and the options became really, really limited.
Do we lose Porty there?
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Okay. All right. We'll see if we can get him on. But this speaks to something Bake said earlier in terms of, just kind of that desperation part of it when you're talking about what happened with Provorov. And they basically, you read what Porty has to say about it, and I'm sure what he's going to continue to expound upon there is you got in a position where you couldn't let him leave. There was nobody to replace him. And so you do what you do here, and he'll be happy, and he's going to play 20 minutes on the ice and all of those things. But it is a steep price to pay, obviously, for Provorov and what he can do. And I also think that first answer for Porty was pretty enlightening when you think about this notion of this market just wasn't what they thought it would be. Porty, I think we have you back. Go ahead with your Provorov opinion there.
Yeah. Sorry, just when the market started to thin out, when Dobson moved, when Rasmus Anderson's desires became known, and the options got really, really limited. Well, then the Blue Jackets, who were kind of, I don't want to say stringing along Provorov, but there really weren't significant conversations for the longest time. Then it became a desperate situation because if you're not getting the guys that are on the market that can change your look, you better circle back and get the guys without letting them go. Like you better have competent, decent, really good players there. Mm-hmm. But then Provorov is in the driver's seat. And what would have been a smaller contract, I'm sure the demands went way, way up. He's got signing bonuses, no move clause, all of that sort of stuff, and a big ticket.
Porty, in terms of the guys who left, Danforth, Kuraly, Van Riemsdyk, what was the attempt to bring those guys back, and were there any they wish they could have?
The sense I get is that Danforth is the guy they wanted to bring back. They saw him as their fourth-line center, and when he left, I think he wanted more term than money. When he left was why they signed Isaac Lundestrom yesterday, because they needed another centerman. I think, to my understanding, there was no attempt to bring Kuraly back, and I don't think there was much of an attempt to bring Van Riemsdyk back either. And Kuraly gets a couple of years and pretty good cash. The Van Riemsdyk one, I kind of shake my head at, because he got another 1 year, $1 million from the Red Wings. That was 16 goals. Valuable player in the room. That's a guy at that price, anyways, I certainly would have considered hanging on to.
Okay, so then from the fan perspective, if you are to have an improved hockey team next year, it's going to have to come from within in a very, very big way. We've spent all of this time talking, and nothing really. The other thing that really didn't get addressed was goaltending. What is the plan there, and is there anything other than the folks who are here to man that ship?
Well, to me, this is the biggest issue coming out of this offseason is the fact that Elvis Merzlikins appears to be, at least on paper, still the number one goalie here. That surprises me. And Jet Greaves was a great story at the end of last season. Perhaps it's a timeshare. Maybe Jet Greaves can claim this is the number one spot, but that, to me, I was a little surprised, frankly, when I didn't think there was a trade market there. I kept hearing that there was some interest, that there was a possibility of moving him. Maybe it was to Anaheim, who took on the Peter Mrazek contract from Detroit to send John Gibson to the Red Wings. That's the trade that maybe the Blue Jackets could have made. The difference there is Elvis has the second year, and Mrazek just had 1 year remaining. Surprised that once that passed, that they did not buy out the contract, and the top free agent signed with the Devils yesterday to stay there. There were a couple other guys, but my sense is they're looking for a 2-3 goalie, a goalie that can play in Cleveland and could be a backup in Columbus as needed. But barring a major unforeseen trade now at this point, it looks like it's going to be Merzlikins and Greaves as the 1-2 in Columbus.
Wow. All right. So, and you go into developmental camp, which starts today.
Yep.
What as you sit here, and it's July 2nd, so things can change between now and the start of the season. How do you view this franchise? What is an expectation right now? And again, we're 2 months out, but what is an expectation of what can happen on the ice?
Yeah, well, I think we have to be careful here, because the disappointment really is that I think the sense for many is that there was an overpromise and an underdeliver, which is kind of the worst thing. The worst thing a GM or a team can do in a summer. And so, I mean, this is still largely the same team that overperformed last year, at least would seem to overperform. They are better, I do think, with Charlie Coyle in the mix. That's a very impressive veteran player. I like Miles Wood a lot if he can get back to where he was. So I don't think this is a situation where they're worse by any means. I do think the young guys are going to get better. I think it should be a competitive team. And the thing that when the GM starts to say this, you know that he's not getting done what he wants to get done. it never stops the opportunities to make your team better. So far into this offseason, they could do something. Early next season could be a trade. You got the trade deadline. Like this is very much a work in progress. This is still a team that's kind of at the beginning of its arc. But I think if you came into this summer expecting them to still rely on their youth to grow, you'd probably be like, okay, let's go. This is where it is. And they added Coyle, but you're expecting, a top 6, a top 4, a new goalie, and it doesn't look like any of that's going to arrive.
You're the best, buddy. Thanks for your time as always.
Yeah, thank you, man. Thanks for having me.
There he goes, the great Aaron Portzline of The Athletic, joining us on the Brian Heating and Cooling Systems Fan Guest Hotline. We'll do a little